I'm Andrew Henderson, and this is another edition of Nomad Capitalist, where we talk about the human side of global citizenship. Beyond the tax strategies and second citizenships and investment ideas, we talk about what it really is like personally, emotionally, on a human level to be a nomad capitalist. And today I am enjoying yet another one of my beloved TWG teas here in Belgrade, French Earl Grey tea, a fragrant variation of the great classic Earl Grey tea. It has been delicately infused with citrus fruits and French blue flowers. This one's kind of fun. And they're not a sponsor. I'm just a fan. So we got a question from a gentleman who wrote in and asked about his relationship ended. And he had been in a relationship for a couple years, and now he is starting over and he wants to move on. And he asked for my advice on what to do and where he should go. So I'm going to assume in this case that you have the flexibility to move wherever you want, because that was the question: where do I move? I think this is a very interesting intersection of the nomad capitalist lifestyle with relationships, because relationships play such a big role in this. I remember when I first started this business, I met a guy in the industry who said, I like what you're doing, but you're too emotional. I said, this entire thing is emotional. Everything that people are doing with regards to what we're talking about is emotional. Whether we want to admit it or not, there is an emotion behind it. And so for me, so many of the things that drive people's desire to not only be successful in business and grow wealth and be a success, but also to live the nomad capitalist lifestyle comes down to, am I doing the right thing for my family? How am I protecting my family and future generations? Or if I'm single, how does this fit into my single life and where I want to be? And, to say, hey, I'm going to put together a tax plan that is the most tax optimized and live in a place that I don't feel comfortable in and live a lifestyle where I'm sacrificing. A lawyer or an accountant might tell you to do that, but I wouldn't tell you to do that. If it costs you an extra couple of percentage points, or if it costs you a little bit more money in an investment to get a certain residence permit, to go in a place where you want to live and you want to live either your family lifestyle or your single lifestyle, I think that you should do that. And it's not all about maximizing the savings. And sometimes, I'll walk people through how to adjust their strategy for their single life. And so, the first thing that I would look at is, I'm newly single. Ask yourself, are you doing what you want to do? Are you in a place where you want to be? Now, again, you're asking where should you move, so it sounds like you've already acknowledged that you don't want to be there, or you're willing to not be there. But, much like the new year, I think, any relationship change is a great opportunity to evaluate the stuff that we talk about. And what we talk about so often is people just keep doing things in their life because that's the way it's always been done. They say, oh, I can't do it any other way. They say, it's too difficult. And I think that when you reach this sort of low point, and whether the relationship was a good one, you're happy to be out of it or not, I think there's a certain low point when you exit a relationship. It's an opportunity to say, all right, now I'm at this certain point and I get to make some really tough decisions about what I'm doing. And I would say, any of the stuff that we're talking about from a nomad capitalist perspective, having a more remote business, moving, etc. Are you doing all those things? Are there any sacred cows that you can get rid of? That's the first thing that I would ask. The second thing that I would suggest, because I think that when I'm talking to people, most people that want to start out by doing this is exploring. I talked to a gentleman the other day who's been traveling for the last 10 years. He's been to about 130 countries. So he's given me a run for my money. And he made a point that I've thought about before, but he's like, there's not really many more places that I want to go. And I've gone as deep with a lot of those 130 as I want to. And his philosophy is, I keep going to a place. If I like it, I keep going until I'm sick of it. And then I set a timeline for at what point do I really like it, and I'm never going to become sick of it. And then I look at considering that as a place where I want to spend time on an ongoing basis. But he's like, everywhere else, I get sick of it pretty quickly, or over a course of a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And so I think if you give yourself time to explore, if you haven't been to 100 some countries, there's probably more places that you can go and you can check out. And the reason I would do that is a couple-fold. Number one, you have this opportunity where you don't have any commitments. And so this is something that most people want to do but don't really have the impetus to do. Let this be your impetus. Let this be your kick in the butt to go out and say, I'm going to explore. And you can make that look whatever you want it to look like. So it could be, I'm going to spend 1 week in each place. Could be, I'm going to spend 1 month in each place. It could be, I'm going to spend 3 months in each place. Now, I'll tell you from personal experience, I have, in all my years, on the road, I'm currently married, so I certainly dated before, dated her. Mrs. H. I was single for most of the rest of the time. I had a relationship. And I can tell you, coming out of that relationship, especially in some of the places that you think you might want to go, people are going to pick up on this sense of loss in your life. And, I think it can be more challenging those first couple months to go out and meet people. And so I would use that as an opportunity to explore and not be tied down anywhere and just to change things up and to go out and see places the pace that you want to see and build your network of hubs and focus cities. At this point in my life, I feel like I've pretty much got every city that I would like to spend time in, whether it's a hub that I want to have a property, whether it's just a focus city where I like going for a week or two and I know my way around. I don't know that there's that many more that I'm going to be opening up to. I'm fascinated by, Uganda, but I doubt Uganda is going to be a big base for me. I'm fascinated by Kyrgyzstan. Probably not going to be a big, place where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, or even going 2 weeks every year. But you can check those places out, and I think that you'll learn about yourself along the way. What is it you like and what is it you don't like? And I think that if you're totally open-minded, you will discover that perhaps there's some things you thought about yourself that aren't true. I think a lot of people say, I like the warm weather. And they really build their life around warm weather. And then they go to warm weather places and then they get miserable at a certain point. I mean, unless you're from somewhere where it's really warm, if you're not from Miami, I think that you like a little bit of snow in your life. You like a little bit of fall, potentially. And so, if you've been going around with the basis of, I have to live in the warm weather, maybe you challenge that. Maybe you look at, what some of your preferences are. I think a lot of people, when they first leave their country, they go to Asia. Some people like Asia. I happen to like Asia. I like Kuala Lumpur because it's a bit more of a developed without being over the top. It still has a little bit of grit to it, unlike, let's say, a Singapore, and it's not as expensive as Hong Kong. But I think some people go to Asia because that's the thing to do. In reality, they should be in Eastern Europe, or in reality, they should be in Latin America, but they kind of follow the herd. And so I would challenge that, and then I would spend my time exploring in targeted areas. And what I would also spend my time doing is focusing on myself, and maybe that means you're going to some places that you wouldn't normally go. For me, one of the things that I've had to challenge is how much I like cities. I do like cities, and I grew up wanting to live in New York, wanting to live in London. Now I'm in Kuala Lumpur, which is not a huge city, but it's big. I like spending time in places like Belgrade, Tbilisi. These are not huge cities. Bogota is a decent-sized city, but feels very in certain areas feels very residential and comfortable. And so, potentially what you want to do is you want to say, I'm just going to go spend some time in Laos. I'm going to go spend some time in Luang Prabang. And that's going to give me the distance from the socialization, because last I heard you can't have any relationships with local people there. It's illegal. I don't know if they've changed that. But you're also going to get a totally different environment where you're off the grid. And you're able to just kind of experience something new and see if that maybe works for you. For me, it was a point of checking out smaller cities and discovering maybe that works for me, while also evaluating that I don't want that to be my entire life because, I like certain conveniences. So make this a period of exploration and do what so many people aren't able to be doing. And I think as you're doing that, I would be really honest with myself. One of the questions that I ask people that we're working with who are single is, what role does dating, marriage, etc. Fit into your life? Obviously, there are plenty of people on YouTube who are not at all reserved about their thoughts on this issue. But I think a lot of people are internally. They want to have a politically correct answer of what they're supposed to do. I think there are people who are dating and living the single life and kind of whether it's serial monogamy or just dating lots of people at once, who perhaps would be happier being married. I think there are people who think they should get married who perhaps would just be happier, going out and playing the field. And so, while Laos might be a good place to go and rejuvenate and meditate and kind of pick yourself and put yourself back together, it's probably not a very good place for a dating scene. And so if the dating scene is your priority, I think being honest about yourself and allowing yourself to have preferences is important. So two of the countries that were suggested in the original question were Vietnam and Georgia. I think both offer very different things. I think in the case of Georgia, dating is going to be more difficult. If you talk to Georgian women, they really want you to be pushy. They want to reject you a whole bunch of times. They want guys who fight. I think a lot of places in Eastern Europe, that's perhaps the case. They want you to push and to fight for them. And there's a sort of drama to it that's maybe not present or even accepted in the West. Whereas Vietnam, people, may be more easy to, get along with, on an initial basis. And so I think Georgia, on the other hand, though, is much better for having friends and making friends very easily. Whereas in Vietnam, you're probably more working with expats who you may or may not gel with, and your sole connection will be that you're from the same country or from the same type of country. And so, a place like Georgia might be better for just making friends and enjoying life and having cheap food and cheap wine and having that lifestyle, having the four seasons, being able to ride your motorbike around the country. And that's the kind of place that maybe meets the bill for exploring when you're newly single. But I think that you have to be honest of, what kind of relationship do I want? I personally don't judge. I mean, I'm married, but if you want to, go date someone new every day or every week, that's cool. I mean, we've all been single at some point, and we've all, met different people. But, I think also understanding that different cultures function differently. You're not going to have that kind of relationship in Georgia or Armenia, where people want longer-term relationships. I think you have to be honest about what type of person you want, and I think that fits into the kind of relationship that you want. For me, I spent time in Latin America, met some very nice Latina women. I think I ultimately realized that culture, certainly there are people within the culture, but by and large, the people that I met, they just really didn't understand the kind of nomadic lifestyle, and it was very difficult for them in leaving their families. Whereas, perhaps somebody who's from Russia or Belarus is more interested in, getting out and going and exploring the world. And so if that's your goal in life, is to be nomadic and to travel around, then I think you should probably put that in part of your profile. If you are, looking for short-term versus long-term relationship, there's different places that meet that. There's, different physical preferences that people have that I think should be acknowledged. So, I don't think that if you're not interested in relationships with Asians, that you should go to Vietnam. And so, there's a certain political correctness to this that, in a business context you want to adhere to, but I think you need to be radically honest with yourself about what it is that you're looking for in all contexts of any dating relationship, because that was what the original question was. How do I get back into the world of dating and experiencing life? And so, understanding that not every place is like the place that you're from, not going and applying your values to new places, and just being really upfront with what it is that you want, going and exploring. I think those are all good things to do. And, taking the opportunity to develop yourself. I think it's a great opportunity to go out and do the stuff that we talk about on a business level. Go out and devote some time to, solving your offshore business issue. If your business isn't offshore, do it now. Go through that work now. Go around the world and open some of your bank accounts, or get your gold vault set up, or take this time to learn about cryptocurrency if you haven't already. Whatever it is that's on your agenda of things to do, that's what I would be doing. But then, the question was about building relationships. I think that I would be, I would attempt to be very understanding of how different cultures operate. And I would, really figure out what it is that I want from, the rest of my life, and kill any sacred cows, whether it's business, relationship, job, what have you. I think that's really the time that you want to spend asking yourself all those questions. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number one, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number two, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number three, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number four, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.